Well, here we are again, ranking wonder weapons by realism. This time of course covering non-Treyarch zombies. And of course extinction, because well it's close enough and doesn't get enough love. Like the prior two videos, a lot of the weapons in the game are enhanced through some sort of magic or extraterrestrial technology that we of course don't have access to in the real world. As a result, our real life counterparts might not be an exact one-to-one of the in-game variants. That being said, I'll try to give each weapon as fair a chance as possible, and I'll be ranking them based on their most realistic attributes at a fundamental level. Remember, this is all just my opinion and a bit of fun, and if you disagree with my rankings, please be sure to leave your own in the comments below. Now without further ado, on to the video. Our first non-Treyarch wonder weapon comes from the game Call of Duty Ghosts, and the mode Extinction. This of course being the Venom X. The Venom X fires a cloud of cryptid venom in a gaseous form. While cryptids obviously don't exist, gas chemical weapons do, and a gun that fires one of these gases is well within the realms of possibility, and as a result the Venom X goes in the possible right now tier, starting the list off strong. Following the standard Venom X we have its elemental variants, starting with the Venom LX. This variant fires small canisters that explode and discharge a huge amount of stored electrical energy. This effect is extremely similar to what we see when high voltage capacitors rapidly discharge, and I believe that a weapon that fires such capacitors is 100% possible with our current technology. Therefore, like the base weapon, the Venom LX also goes in the possible right now tier. The second Venom X variant is the Venom FX. The FX fires a delayed explosive that when detonated releases a huge fireball. Like the other two variants, replicating this effect in real life with our current technology is completely possible, as it's essentially just firing incendiary explosives, which of course already exist. As a result, the FX also ranks in the possible right now tier. A full house so far for the Venom X family. The final Venom X variant, for COD Ghosts at least, is the Venom SX, which unfortunately ruins the Venom X's perfect run. This variant fires a spore which grows into a huge plant that then fires some sort of projectiles at your enemies to kill them. Seeing as no such plant or weapon exists, it's safe to say this one goes in the impossible tier. The only other extinction wonder weapon is the NX-1 Disruptor. This weapon fires a ball of plasma-like energy that explodes upon impact. As cool as this weapon is, unfortunately plasma weapons don't yet exist. That being said, I don't believe that they are something that's completely impossible, and I believe that in the far future we will have created plasma weapons. Therefore, I'll be placing the Disruptor in the position of not in our lifetime. Moving on to our first true non-Treyarch zombies experience, and in my opinion one of the most severely underrated zombies modes to date, Exo Zombies. The first Exo Zombies wonder weapon is of course the Cell 3 Cauterizer. The Cell 3 is essentially a rotary barrel energy shotgun that fires extremely hot projectiles that, as the name implies, cauterizes their inflicted wounds on impact. Now while we can't replicate an energy firing shotgun, we can still effectively mimic the Cell 3 with our current technology. Rotary barrel weapons do already exist, and some shotguns already use rotary magazines, so this feature of the Cell 3 is easily replicable in the real world. Now in regards to the projectiles it fires, we in fact already have a similar shotgun shell type that even looks similar to the in-game variant when fired. This of course being Dragon's Breath round, which like the Cell 3's projectiles reach extremely high temperatures in excess of 1650 degrees Celsius. Due to the fact that we can produce something very similar to the Cell 3 in real life, I'll be ranking it in the very close to reality tier. The next Exo Zombies wonder weapon comes courtesy of one of the worst maps in zombies history. This map of course being Infection, or Burger Town as it's affectionately known. The wonder weapon for this map is the Magnetron, a directed energy weapon that fires microwaves to cook your enemies. As we covered for the wave gun in the first video, microwave weapons do already exist, albeit in a much larger form than in the game, and seeing as to create a Magnetron in real life, all you'd have to do is downsize this currently existing technology, I'll be ranking the Magnetron as very close to reality. The third Exo Zombies wonder weapon is in my opinion the coolest so far, that being the LZ-52 Limbo. This weapon fires orbs that shoot two lasers in a horizontal line and mow down whatever they contact. Now we do have laser weapons currently in active operation, however these are far more limited in their application and currently we cannot replicate the effects we see in game. That being said, many militaries are investing in laser technology and I believe that at some point in the future we may be able to create a similar weapon. As a result of this, the Limbo gun ranks in the plausible in the future tier. The final Exo Zombies wonder weapon is the KLO-3 Trident. This weapon fires energy balls that ricochet off of any solid surface and kill enemies on impact. As cool as this weapon is, bouncy energy balls aren't exactly the most plausible thing, however I don't think they're entirely impossible, so as a result I'll rank the Trident in the not in our lifetime tier. Our next non-Treyarch zombies game is Infinite Warfare Zombies, a mode that most fans agree is the best non-Treyarch zombies experience we've ever had. The first Infinite Warfare Zombies wonder weapon comes from the map Zombies in Spaceland and is called the Discord. This weapon is a modified arcade laser pistol that when fired at an enemy causes them to begin breakdancing before finally exploding. As funny as this weapon is, it of course goes in the impossible tier. The next weapon from Spaceland is another modified laser pistol, this time called the Shredder. When this weapon is fired at an enemy, it causes their limbs and torso to explode one by one. The closest we can get to replicating this will be with some kind of pistol that fires miniature cluster bombs with staggered fuses, though granted this is a stretch, at least with our current technology. As a result, the Shredder goes in the plausible in the future tier. Our third Spaceland weapon is yet again another modified laser pistol, this time called the Face Melter. Enemies that hit with this weapon will have their arms and legs blown off and replaced with rockets propelling them into the sky before ultimately exploding into fireworks. Again, a hilarious premise for a weapon, yet also utterly impossible to replicate, hence its position on the list. The final laser pistol from Spaceland is the head cutter, which as the name implies causes damage exclusively to the enemy's head. When shot with a head cutter, the enemies will stop in place, followed by their heads exploding. Explosive weapons obviously exist, and I suppose if you had good enough aim and always hit the head, this weapon is somewhat feasible to replicate, though again this is a stretch. Due to its somewhat ambiguous nature, I'll place the head cutter in the not on a lifetime tier, as who knows what mad scientists will be up to in the future. Our final wonder weapon from Zombies in Spaceland is the Forge Freeze. This weapon is by far the most realistic on the map, as it fires a beam of a supercooled substance that freezes enemies over time. As I explained for the DIE Cryo Freeze in the last video, many engineering YouTubers have already created similarly functioning pieces of equipment, and as such I'll be ranking the Forge Freeze as possible right now. The next map for Infinite Warfare Zombies was Rave in the Redwoods. With this map we received yet another set of 4 variant wonder weapons, this time being the crossbows. Starting with the base crossbow or the Vlad. This is literally just a regular crossbow that fires explosive bolts. Now obviously crossbows and explosive bolts already exist, so it of course goes in the possible right now tier. The first variant is the Ben Franklin. This variant fires electric arrows that discharge a large amount of electricity on impact. I believe creating a similar weapon with current technology wouldn't be too difficult, as we already have taser arrows and capacitors that can store huge amounts of charge and release it in a similar manner to that which we see in the game. As a result, I'll be ranking the Ben Franklin in the possible right now tier. The next Vlad variant is the Whirlwind. This variant fires a blast of compressed air that blows away nearby enemies. Seeing as this effect is extremely similar to the Thundergun, I'll be ranking it similarly. We do currently have air weapons that are already in use, such as vortex cannons, though shrinking one of these down to crossbow sized might be more difficult in practice than in theory. As a result, the Whirlwind ranks in the possible tier. The third Vlad variant is the Trap-O-Matic. This variant is one of the most unique wonder weapons we've seen so far, as when 2 or more bolts are fired within range of one another, a laser tripwire is formed between the bolts. As cool as this weapon is, unfortunately we don't currently have the technology required to replicate the effect that we see in the game. That being said, I don't think it's something that's too far from being reproducible in the future, hence its position in the plausible in the future tier. The final variant of the Vlad is the Acid Rain, which as the name suggests forms a cloud of acid rain. Now of course forming a literal cloud isn't possible with an arrow. However, if you took an explosive arrow and placed a container full of acid over the head, the detonation would cause the acid to be sprayed into the air and then rain down, in effect mimicking what we see in the game. Due to this, I'll be ranking the Acid Rain as possible right now. The final wonder weapon for Rave in the Redwoods is the Smiley, which is literally just a modified cut-off saw with the ability to fire its blades. This is something that's completely possible to replicate in real life, as all you'd have to do is add a quick release to the saw blades and insert an obstruction for the blades to collide with, then allow momentum to do the rest. As a result of its relative ease to replicate, the Smiley also goes in the possible right now tier. DLC 2 for Infinite Warfare gave us Shaolin Shuffle. In this map we receive 4 martial arts fighting styles as wonder weapons. Along with their standard melee attacks, the martial arts hands each have their own supernatural attack. As all of these supernatural abilities are very literally impossible, I'll be ranking all of the martial arts hands in the impossible tier. In Shaolin Shuffle we also receive the Katana and the Nunchucks, 2 extremely iconic oriental weapons. In game both can be upgraded and given different ranged attacks. For the Nunchucks, an explosion is created upon impact with a zombie that can be used to take out surrounding enemies. For the Katana, the ranged ability is shooting a path of green fire that erupts in swords manifesting from the ground. Now of course these abilities are impossible to replicate in the real world, so impossible tier is where they should go. However, to give Shaolin Shuffle some benefit, I'll just rank their non-upgraded forms, both of which obviously do exist and as such belong in the possible right now tier. The next map for Infinite Warfare Zombies was Attack of the Radioactive Thing. In this map we received the Modular Atomic Disintegrator, or the MAD. This weapon fires a blast of atomic energy that, as the name implies, disintegrates whatever enemies stand before you. While we currently don't have the means to produce such a weapon, it's definitely something that I could see being produced in the future, just not in our lifetimes. The final map for Infinite Warfare Zombies, The Beast from Beyond, saw the return of the cryptids from extinction, and with them the Venom X, along with some new variants. The first new Venom variant is the Venom Y. This variant fires some sort of gas bomb that forms a cloud that freezes and then explodes any enemies that are caught within it. Thankfully, no such gas exists just yet. However, I can't say I'm convinced that it's completely impossible, just not something we'll see in our lifetimes. Well, I hope not anyway. The second variant is the Venom Z. The Z fires an explosive that when detonated releases a blast of electricity. This variant is extremely similar to the prior mentioned Venom LX from Extinction, and as such it will rank in the same position, possible right now. The Beast from Beyond also gave us the Entangler. This weapon breaks down your enemies into a base computer generated model before launching them into a bundle of green retro style pixel cubes. Safe to say this one goes in the impossible tier, at least until someone proves that we are in fact living in a simulation. Our final non-Treyarch Zombies game is Call of Duty World War II Zombies, a much grittier and more horror focused take on the mode. The first wonder weapon from World War II Zombies is the Tesla gun, which as the name implies uses electricity to incapacitate and kill your enemies. As this weapon behaves similarly to many other electricity weapons mentioned in this and previous videos, and again seeing as even YouTubers have been able to produce directed electricity weapons, this one goes in the very close to reality tier. Like pretty much every wonder weapon at this point, the Tesla gun 2 comes in a few different flavours, the first of which being the Bloodthirst. This variant also fires electricity, however unlike the regular Tesla gun, enemies shot with a Bloodthirst will also explode after a short delay. Achieving this ability with electricity alone will be extremely difficult, though it will be fairly easy to replicate the in-game effect using explosives alongside the electricity, though due to its mix of abilities it will rank slightly lower than the base weapon, placing it in the possible tier. The second Tesla gun variant, the Reaper, behaves essentially identical to the Bloodthirst, as far as I can tell from my research anyway, and as such it'll rank in the same position. Though if I've gotten this wrong, be sure to let me know, as my experience with COD World War II is extremely limited and I'm basing most of this off of YouTube gameplay. The third Tesla variant is the Midnight. This variant fires green energy rays that slice up enemies on contact. Of course, replicating this in the real world is currently not possible, however I believe it may be in the future, just not in our lifetime, hence its position on the list. The final Tesla variant is the Hurricane. This variant is extremely cool and fires a slow moving ball of plasma that electrocutes any enemies who stand within its radius. Many militaries are actively researching plasma weapons for military purposes, however such weapons are still a while off. Therefore I rank the Hurricane as plausible in the future. The next wonder weapon from World War II Zombies is the Wonderbus, a heavily modified blunderbuss with two firing modes, the first being firing modified mortars which shock enemies on impact before exploding. This will be very easy to replicate by essentially just strapping a taser to a lightly modified mortar. The second firing mode is a beam of directed electricity that behaves very similar to the real life electricity gun created by YouTuber Alan Pan. Seeing as both firing modes are relatively easy to replicate, the Wonderbus goes in the possible right now tier. Following the Wonderbus we have the Ripsaw. This weapon is essentially identical to the Smiley from Raven the Redwoods, and as such it receives the same rank, possible right now. The final wonder weapons from World War II Zombies and for this list are a series of melee weapons, all of which would rank in the possible right now tier for their base melee attacks, as of course they're all easy to replicate in real life. That being said, each one does have its own unique secondary attack mode, which is what I'll be ranking the realism of. Starting with the Nachtmar. This weapon is a golden World War II trench club, an already brutal weapon to begin with. Further to its melee attack, the Nachtmar has the secondary ability of throwing a beam of electricity. While other electric weapons have been given high ranks due to their plausibility, the nature in which this weapon harnesses electricity and flings it as though it's some kind of fluid massively detracts from its realism. I don't think replicating this effect is completely impossible, it's just not something that we can do right now, but possibly something we could see in the future. Next we have the Holder. This weapon is a World War II German military axe, also made from gold like the Nachtmar. Unlike the Nachtmar, the Holder's secondary ability is an explosion can occur when meleeing. This effect is definitely replicable in real life by attaching impact explosives to the axe in a similar fashion to this 50 caliber hammer produced by I Did a Thing. Of course, this wouldn't be quite as powerful as the explosion we see in game, however that's definitely for the best, as otherwise the user would have to deal with significant splash damage. That being said, the Holder goes in the possible right now tier. Third we have the Percher. This weapon is essentially just a taser knife that shocks enemies when you stab them, and seeing as how taser blades have already been created by various people such as JLaservideo, this one too goes in the possible right now tier. Next up we have the Sword of Barbarossa, which is again essentially an electricity blade, this time of course being an electric sword, which is in fact much more similar to JLaser's electric sword. As a result, the Sword of Barbarossa also goes in the possible right now tier. Following the Sword of Barbarossa we have the Talon of Luroth. This weapon is a broken flail that when thrown has the ability to teleport you to the location of the thrown head. This is a very cool concept and one that I truly do wish we could replicate right now. However, unfortunately we haven't quite figured out teleportation just yet. That being said, I'm optimistic that it's something we'll see in the future, and as such it goes in the plausible in the future tier. Next is the Roar of Sanket. This weapon is a shield that can fire an explosive burst of energy at enemies. While firing a burst of energy from a shield isn't currently possible, we could somewhat replicate the effect by strapping a directional explosive such as a claymore to the front of a shield and using it to blast away your enemies. Though I'm not sure of the survivability for the user of such a weapon. Due to the principle being somewhat replicable, I'll place this one in the possible tier with a large caveat of the user's survival rate being presumably low. The next melee wonder weapon is the Fang of Anheist. This weapon also harnesses the power of electricity, and does so in essentially the same manner as the Nachtmar, and as a result it suffers from the same realism limitations. Due to this it receives the same rank, plausible in the future. The final wonder weapon for Call of Duty World War II Zombies, and for this list, is the Fist of Talrek. This weapon is a sledgehammer which can be thrown that then explodes and returns to the user. Now an exploding throwable sledgehammer is absolutely possible to produce, however the return feature isn't as easy. Now of course you could attach the hammer to a rope of some kind, but I'm not sure of the logistics of this following the hammer exploding. If it only had one ability or the other, I'd be more inclined to be more lenient in my ranking, but the combination of the two secures this one a spot in the Not in Our Lifetime tier. So there we have it. Every non-Treyarch wonder weapon ranked on Realism. This video took far longer to make than the previous two due to various factors, primarily my inexperience with most of these weapons and games for the most part. As a result, there are bound to be more than a few errors, so be sure to correct me on any in the comments below. With this video, we've also completed the series for standard wonder weapons. I do intend on making a final part to the series covering all wonder equipment, buildables and specialists from throughout Zombies, though I'll definitely be leaving that one for a little while. In regards to other future videos, I highly suggest that you check out my last video as I cover my plans for the immediate and further future for this channel. If you enjoyed this video, I also recommend that you check out my others, and hopefully you'll find more that you like. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching and take it easy.